going. And here we are. Welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. My guest today, Amy Finnigan. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am very well, thanks. Very well. As I said, I've just had a restful long weekend, so I'm just forcing myself back into work at the moment today. So yeah, it's felt like a holiday. You know, you have 1 or 2 extra days, and suddenly, you know, it's amazing how powerful just that little bit of extra time can be. You know, it's sort of revitalizing.
Absolutely.
So you're based down at Anytime Fitness down on Wyndham Street in the centre of town, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been there?
How long have I been there? It must be coming up 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years there, and then kind of just gallivanting around Auckland at other studios, teaching bits and bobs everywhere.
Oh,
but
okay.
I guess you could say that's my home base.
Yeah. So you do some other things other than traditional PT. You do some other things like bar classes. Is that right? What else?
Yeah. So teaching bar, a little bit of Pilates and HIIT and boxing. Yeah. So just sort of like generic group fitness.
Yeah. Cool. So what would your time split be in terms of traditional PT as opposed to some of the group stuff? Is it an even split, or is there more time spent doing the group?
No, I'd say mostly PT. Generally I'm doing about anywhere between like 20 to 30 hours a week PT. Wow. I'd say.
Yeah, decent.
And then probably only about like 5 classes a week. So I mostly just do the classes because I enjoy it and I like the energy of a class. But I also like the one-on-one nature of personal training and like really getting to know my clients and like having that time and those chats around our sessions as well. So that's mostly how I spend my time, and then just fill it in with some classes and that as well.
That's good. I guess that gives you a bit of variety as well as the enjoyment of those classes.
Definitely. And I've recently changed my schedule. How you were saying about the long weekend. I decided to finish half days on Fridays, which I've been loving, and it's been one of the best things that I could have done, just to have that work-life balance, and then weekends off as well. Because when I first got into the industry, it was so easy just to be like, sure, I'll teach the Saturday classes and whatever. And then all of a sudden you've got like 1 or no days off. So having that 2.5 days for myself and just to kind of like reset and regroup has been really good.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you sounds like you've found the balance. It looks to me like you work reasonably hard at keeping that balance, and you look after yourself in terms of your own exercise, but also in terms of your own nutrition as well. And I've seen lots of pictures of food and snacks and bits and pieces while I was doing my research. It seems like it's just, it's I guess you'd expect that from people in our industry, but you're very proactive at sharing those things to, I guess, give people ideas, but also inspire them to take those steps themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess it hasn't always been this way for me. And I guess what I really try to push with my clients and show online is that you can find a balance, and you can lose weight or lose fat sustainably and over a longer period of time by just making those like smaller choices and smaller habits. Once you combine those smaller habits, then that is what ultimately changes into like a healthier lifestyle. So it definitely wasn't always that way. But compounding over time. And so I hope just by sharing little bits and pieces of like what I eat, which I think is yum and maybe someone else might, that it can still get you to your goals, and you don't have to just eat like tuna salads forever to be healthy. You can have a bit of a balance.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. And so it didn't all start here though, did it? Because you were a dancer, that's that right? Before you got into health and fitness.
Yes, I grew up dancing, and when I was 18 I got a scholarship to the New York Film Academy.
Cool.
I packed up and moved over to New York, the big smoke.
Yeah, big step.
Yeah, it was. And in hindsight, I don't even think I really knew what I was doing or what was going on. It was just kind of cool. I'm moving to New York next week. And I think if I had thought about it too much, maybe I would have talked myself out of it. So I'm so glad that I just kind of went for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a really, really great time of my life. I was there for 3 years, studied musical theatre and film, and danced professionally. And from there decided that because I was so young, I was a bit homesick and I wanted to be a little bit closer to home. So instead of renewing my visa, ended up moving to Sydney and kind of doing the same thing from there. So that's sort of how it all began. And then through being in that kind of industry where you are put in the spotlight and it is important to take care of yourself. And I really was not taking care of myself. It was it was not a healthy time. And I think in the first year in New York, my dinners probably consisted of like pizza, ice cream, chicken nuggets. I think the only time I would cook would be to make a plain omelet with like tomato sauce and soy sauce all over it, because it was the only thing I knew how to make. So I really had to like find out how to take care of myself and really kind of pave the way for myself. And the more I kind of delve into that, the more interested in it I became. And then eventually got a job in the fitness industry. Just started on reception. And it just kind of went on from there. It was, at first it was just kind of a passion or a hobby, and then it's become my work. And the dancing is no more.
Is the dancing still, I mean, I don't know much about bar, so you'll have to excuse my complete ignorance, but there are dance disciplines in bar, right?
So bar, essentially you're using the ballet bar. But I wouldn't say, especially my classes are not very dancey at all. Some bar classes you might go to, you'll have like an ex-ballerina teaching it, and she'll just be unreal, amazing, and be doing all these like crazy ballet arms with the leg movements. But I like to try and take a more athletic approach to it. So essentially you're using basic positions of ballet, like a first position or a wide second. And in those positions, you're doing like lots of small, intricate movements, like lots of pulses and little squeezes. And I would say it's probably closer to Pilates than it is to dancing.
Okay, sounds painful.
Yeah, definitely.
How long do they last?
Anywhere from about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it mostly lower body?
Full body. So so you start with a warm-up, which is just a lot of abs and kind of warming into upper body. And then we always do like a weight section, which you're working with very lightweight, so like 1 to 3 kgs. And it's just high reps, low weights that goes for about 5 or so minutes. And then we work on thighs, and then you work on glutes. So you get a really good glute activation. And then you finish off with some more abs and a stretch at the end. So essentially the premise of it is you're building lean muscle by challenging, like putting that time under tension, and you're working those muscles hard for a longer period of time, and then you're stretching them out right away. So there's that like activation followed by a stretch, and then you kind of move on to the next muscle group.
Okay, stretch as you go. I'm not tempted, but it sounds interesting.
You'll have to give it a go sometime.
One day. I keep promising people I'll turn up to their classes. I think I've got a list as long as my arm of classes I should be attending. It also looks as though you're big into sort of experimenting, using yourself as the guinea pig and trying different things. I know you're big into to Wim Hoff method and some of his practices, and with your nutrition and so on. Is that a fair statement, that you kind of you like to see how things work for you, and then you can then sort of roll that out to clients as something that might work for them?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I'm pretty open-minded, especially when it comes to, like, I don't know if you would call Wim Hof like biohacking, but like, I just did a fasting mimicking diet recently. So any kind of like protocols or tools like fasting or breath work or exposure therapy. So like when you alternate between saunas and ice baths. Definitely interested in all of that, because it seems quite scary at first, especially when I tell my clients, oh yeah, go jump in an ice bath and it's 3 degrees for 2.5 minutes, and they look at me like, you are crazy. But it's one of those things. I enjoy the mental challenge, and I find, aside from all the health benefits there is from it too, it's like mentally telling myself like, this is hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think that can kind of spill over into other areas of your life. So I do enjoy dabbling in those things as well.
That's good. What took you down that path with Wim Hof? What was the spark of interest with that particular mode?
I don't even remember how I first got into it. Actually, yes, I do. A guy that I was working with, we were sitting in a meeting, and he was talking about how he hadn't been sick in 5 years, and he travels all around the world all the time. So he's always on planes and in airports and everything. And he said that he put it down to this Wim Hof thing he'd been doing for the past 5 years. And so I thought, wow, because I was sitting in the meeting and I was sick with the flu. And so I was like, I need to look into this. And so I just kind of started dabbling in it. And then over the first lockdown last year, I decided to purchase his 10-week online course. So kind of took myself through that. And it's quite good. He breaks it down into little videos each week. So you kind of have more understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. And not only is there like the breath work component, but there's the cold shower or cold immersion to follow it up. And then he also included some kind of like yoga poses or challenges as well. So there's that movement component as well. And then from there, I went on to do a workshop with Nigel Beach in Auckland, and he holds workshops all around New Zealand. And that kind of just solidified it a lot more. And now it's just part of my morning routine. It's something that I do, and it makes me feel good. And I find that I can better handle the day when I've included that as part of my routine.
Okay. Do you have an automatic order of ice delivery to your home, where there must be bags and bags of ice, surely, right?
No, I just do a cold shower every day, and then I try and do an ice bath once a week or once every couple of weeks. That's a little bit more niggly because I live in an apartment, so it's not as easy to kind of set up.
Wheelbarrow with ice going in the lift.
But eventually I'd like to get a chest freezer, which is how it's often done. If you're doing it often enough, it becomes super expensive to buy ice every week, because it's like $50 a pop every time to fill up your bath. The chest freezer is kind of the way to go, because then you only have to turn it on for like an hour a day, and that just keeps it chilled. And then you just make sure you turn it off, take the plug out before you jump in. So that would be what I'd like to do in the future.
That's a good idea. I guess you could keep some veggies at one end and just leave it on, couldn't you?
I guess so.
It's interesting. It's really fascinating. I haven't spent a lot of time dabbling in that myself. I was listening to a podcast with Paula Radcliffe. She's one of the top runners, or was one of the top runners, and it was one of her pre-race routines was the ice bath when either the day before or 2 days before a big marathon. Well, when I say a big marathon, a marathon, that was a big race for her. You know, she was either aiming for a record or a personal best. And that was part of her routine. She would always ice bath it just to, I guess, it mentally as well as physically. And you talked about that mental side of things. So it's, you know, and obviously the All Blacks are, a lot of top athletes are using it. So the science is there for sure. What does it do? You talked about it spilling over into other areas, and I was quite interested by that comment because, you know, you talked about the mental side of things. What have you seen it do in terms of that mental side of things that has been positive for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's maybe more resilient. So more resilience and more discipline as well. Yeah, I think quite often it's so easy to be soft on yourself and be like, oh, I'll just sleep in this morning. Like, it doesn't really matter if I get up and meditate or not, like, you know, and you kind of just make excuses, and then you listen to those excuses, and then all of a sudden it's like you haven't got up and done your morning routine in 3 weeks. Sure. So I find having something and sticking to it creates that discipline, and it spills over into other areas. So it makes it easier to make smarter decisions about what I eat and stick to my training schedule. Because I'm training for a half Ironman at the moment, which is pretty intense, and that requires a lot of discipline and a lot of hard training, especially because I'm totally out of my comfort zone with the cycle, run, and swim. So I think it's definitely helped and made a big difference for me.
Another thing which I'm curious to know more about is your ambassadorship with Under Armour. I see that you are, is that the right term, ambassador?
Yes. Yeah.
How do, I guess for people listening who think, oh, that looks good, and I imagine there's probably a bit more work behind the scenes than people realize, but what does that mean for you? What does that mean for Under Armour, and how did you get into it?
So how to get into it? So I used to work in a studio called District Fitness when I first moved back to Auckland. And the marketing manager there, she went on to go and work for Under Armour. So I kind of already had that connection with her, which sometimes it is a little bit of who you know, just to kind of get your name forward and get your name out there. But yeah, I guess what's involved, you're essentially representing the brand. So there is a bit of a responsibility that comes with that. And I think with representing any brand, and that includes your own brand as well, is that you want to be who you are, authentically who you are, but showing the brand in a good way, and doing things that would represent you and represent them. So yeah, in terms of Under Armour, we film like various shoots throughout the year for their campaigns with like Rebel Sport. And we lots of bits and bobs. We get to kind of test out all the new like samples going into stores. We get to try them on, and they see how it looks before they get chosen for that store. What else? We recently competed at the Ultimate Athlete competition down in the Mount. And that was awesome because we had the likes of Liam Messam on our team. And I think I got a little bit too excited, and it was the second lap around the Mount. I tripped on a rock and fell and popped my hand down and just scraped it all up. And ended up in a cast for 2 weeks.
I think I saw a photo.
Yeah, but it was potential broken scaphoid, but it ended up being okay, which thank God it was okay. But yeah, stuff like that out in the community is that's all part of the role in ambassadorship as well.
Enjoyable? Is it something you'd recommend if people had those opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, wearing the clothing as well, which is probably the best part, because I really love the clothing, and especially the women's wear. It's come such a long way since working with the brand, and yeah, a lot of the styles and that are coming through, it's like, just can't wait to get my hands on them.
So are they pretty proactive? Like, do they take your feedback as ambassadors and say, if you're telling them things that don't work in terms of design, they'll go back to the next version and adjust those things?
They definitely take our feedback. Whether that goes all the way back to like design, I'm not 100% sure, but it definitely would sway like what goes in stores and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get to officiate at certain events as well. Was it around the bays that you do you did a warm up for the participants? Was it around the bays?
Yes, yeah. So around the bays, last year happened to fall on International Women's Day as well. So I was fortunate enough to lead the warm up for that, which was awesome. Just having 30,000 people in front of you and kind of attempting to follow along, even though everybody has like a centimeter of space around them. And it was a shame it didn't go ahead this year because of I think we literally went into a lockdown the night before. So it didn't quite go ahead, but yeah, last year was awesome.
Yeah. That's a big class.
Yeah. Yes, a big class.
A decent claim to fame, isn't it? Yeah, I might squeeze you in, but we're pretty full.
Yeah.
So I guess towards the end of a chat, I try and pick people's brains to see what their pearls of wisdom are for those who are listening, because that's what PT Mentor is all about, is helping people get and stay in the industry and be successful. I think we've probably answered some of those along the way in terms of the balance that you've managed to find in terms of your working week, the things that you do to look after yourself. And obviously we are our business. So if we're not looking after ourselves, the business is in jeopardy. So over and above that, are there other things that are sort of go-to things for you that you think could be useful things to share? And it might not necessarily be sort of personal stuff. It could be business stuff or whatever works for Amy.
Yeah, I guess energy management has been really important for me. So yeah, as we were saying about like having that work-life balance and stuff. And for me, like eating well is not just about how you look, or getting enough sleep is not just so you're like looking good or whatever. It's to have the most amount of energy, because if you feel your best and you feel energized, then you can help more people, and you're not as like dead at the end of the day. So I think working on that has been important. So really prioritizing eating well whenever possible, and sleep as well. So generally my first client of the day starts my first client or class is at 6 a.m. So I'm up at 5 every day, which means I have got to be in bed by 9 p.m. the night before. So having boundaries and really trying to stick to them around that has been really helpful for me. And the morning routine, so like the Wim Hoff, meditation, all of that stuff that I like to do for myself, taking the time for myself at the start of the day. I feel like I can be better for my clients and give them more energy. And where if I was just going straight into the day and kind of all frazzled and all over the place, then it wouldn't be quite the same experience for them.
Okay.
So I'd say energy management, balancing your time, and then again on the boundaries, like having the times that you want to work between, and then try to get, it doesn't always work out, but if you can get your clients to kind of fit in with when you want to work, and you're not just kind of saying yes to, sure, we can train at 8:30 at night, and then someone else, sure, 5 a.m. the next day, and then all of a sudden it's like you're just kind of all over the place and your schedule is a bit crazy. So definitely trying to like block sessions together, working out how many you like to do in a row, block that, rest, block, and just try to make it as seamless for you as possible.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it sounds good. And I think that morning routine is probably one of the most powerful, isn't it? Because it does set you up for the day. I mean, if you race out of bed and you don't get something to eat, and you haven't had any time to process the morning, and you're racing straight into your first session, the rest of the day can go a bit crap as a result of that sometimes, can't it? As opposed to having time for yourself, processing what's happening, getting some good nutrition on board, and moving into your day, in a nice gradual way rather than racing.
Totally. And then, you feel like you're chasing your tail the whole day if it's like that.
Yeah.
And then again, on the boundaries as well, for me, what I learned pretty early on is any kind of like admin work I've got to do is trying to get that done between sessions throughout the day. So when I do go home, I have dinner and then I have that time for myself just to kind of chill out or catch up with a friend or whatever it is before a bit of a wind down evening routine happens.
Nice.
So trying not to take work home
when
possible.
Yeah, I think that's good as well, isn't it? Because it's so easy to do. Technology means we can do anything anywhere now. And it's so easy for those lines to be blurred. So to have some discipline or some rules for yourself around those means that you get that wind down time, you get a better sleep, you start fresher, and so the cycle continues the next day. Yeah, I like that. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, that's a nice one to end on, because it's sort of, winding down to the end of the day, winding down to the end of the interview. So really good. Great to catch up. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time today, and catch you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was lovely to chat with you.
Cool. See you later.